All right, last but not least, we have to service the dropper post to finally finish this bike up. So this is a Oneup dropper post with a Oneup remote. And I'm not a big fan of having to disconnect the cable from the remote in order to pull up the dropper post and remove it from the bike. What I do is actually release the lever mechanism, or the lever. In this case, I have an iSpec 1 on my, an iSpec 2, sorry, on my Shimano brakes. I have it connected with the iSpec 2 adapter, and I'm going to release it from the iSpec 2 adapter, and then I'm going to feed the whole cable down as I pull up the dropper, and then disconnect it, leaving the whole cable intact, basically, because sometimes the cable gets frayed at the bottom and you're going to have to replace your cable because there's no way you're going to be able to put it back in. So another thing that I do is I mark where my seat is as far as depth within the seat tube, and I use black tape for that, which I should have brought out in the rinse. Here we go, black electric tape. All right, just cut a piece out. Okay. This allows me to easily put it back into place without having to worry about it. So you want to place it right at the base. Make sure you don't wrinkle it. Okay, you want to make sure it aligns perfectly right there. So now we have a guide as far as putting it back in, right? So since this is Shimano, I'm going to need a 4mm to disconnect the iSpec 2 adapter. All right, there we go. Right, let me just put this guy back in before he flops over. Quick. So like I said, I don't like disconnecting the cable because, again, it gets frayed, and sometimes passing it through is next to impossible. It turns into a major pain in the ass. Then I got to replace the cable. I don't feel like replacing the cable. So next, I need a 5mm to loosen the collar. So now that we loosened the dropper from the seat tube, what I'm going to do is feed the whole housing, right? On this bike, it's actually a little stiff only because of the curve, but it's still doable. Okay, and then slowly feed it up. There we go. Oops, wrong one. Shit. No wonder. What am I doing? God damn it. Which one did I just pull? There we go. Actually, might as well leave that one down there. It's this one. All right, so feed it up. Ta-da! Okay. So now that all that's exposed, close in. I don't feel like having greasy hands. What I'm gonna do is clean up all the sand and debris quick. Okay, so now that I found my 3mm, what I'm gonna do is just loosen but not remove the cable. All right, just loosen it just a little bit so we get a little bit of slackness in the cable, and that will allow me to then detach it from the housing. I love that new system. So there's our dropper. Again, we got our black tape. Let's clean the outside of it, get all the dirt off. And now we will open them up. All right, so we got a dropper post out. Now we have to open it up, right? So again, this is a Oneup. I love the Oneup dropper post. For the money, I don't think you can get a better dropper post. For me, so far, they've been flawless. So what we're gonna do first is take off the collar, or at least loosen the collar, right? Now, I never tight these down to a point where I can't unloosen them by hand. I mean, when you close it back up, just tighten it down as hard as you can by hand, right? So, but you don't need to use a strap wrench on it. So we loosen the collar, and then we take off the bottom adapter. Oh yeah, the tools you're going to need. You're going to need a 14mm wrench, and I honestly don't remember if it's either a 2 or 2.5mm Allen for the 2 bolts on the inside to let go of the piston that's in there. So I'm going to unscrew this guy. These are so easy to service, it's ridiculous. Okay, there we go. So now on the inside, you'll notice we have 2 ports, right? And this will disengage the, right here, 1, 2. These are the 2 bolts we have to disengage the cable adapter from the actual piston on the inside, right? And you know what? It's probably a 2. Is it a 2 or 2.5? Yep, it's a 2. Ah, sorry, is that a 2? Yes, it is a 2. So we need a 2mm, 2.5 on the side. And we take out bolt 1. Let's put this more in the middle of the screen. Okay, bolt 1 is gone. Put it on the side. And we take out bolt 2. Carefully, try not to strip them. These are small. Bolt 2 is out. And we separate the cable adapter from the housing, right? Then let's take out the bumper, and then let's take out the piston. Okay, now we could take out the whole bottom housing. Now, wow, this is pretty clean. When was the last time I cleaned this? I must have cleaned it close to the end of last year. So we have to clean the inside of this guy real well, and you could use brake fluid or alcohol. And basically, you're going to need a dowel with towels. You can take, you know, alcohol or brake cleaner, put it in there, and then just take a towel and make sure that all the ridges, so there's sort of like ridges in here, guides that actually guide the pins. You want to make sure those are spotless. There's no debris, any kind of sand, anything in there, any kind of dirt in those whatsoever, right? So we'll take care of that later. So next, we will remove this guy right here. It's a split ring. Okay. And then we'll remove the stop ring. Again, another split ring. And then we will take out, oops, we got to take out the pins. So we got 3 pins on these guys. 1. These are the guide pins that allow them to go straight up and down. And you could actually set, the nice thing about the 1-ups is you could set how high you want the dropper to rise. So this way, if you fall in between sizes, you can get the bigger size, but add a little less, or remove some of the rise to it. And then we have the wiper. Now it's a question of cleaning all this stuff. All right, so for starters, let's get some alcohol here. Let's start with this guy here just to get him out of the way. Quick. All right. I love keeping my droppers fresh. I love dropper posts. To me, it's one of the greatest inventions in mountain biking in a very, very long time. Once you get used to them, you cannot ride without them. Okay. Take out all the old grease. All right, let's do that one more time. Okay, that guy's done. Let's clean the wiper. It's a really easy job. Like I said, the biggest pain in the butt in this job is actually removing it from the bike. Now this guy gets a lot of dirt built up in him on the inside, so you want to take all that grime out as much as you can. Now at the same time, what you want to do is inspect your wiper, make sure there's no cuts Make sure there's no warped areas on the diameter of it, right? This thing has to be round. I mean, it basically wipes all the dirt from going inside, which would essentially destroy your post, or at least scratch your post to a point where it won't be effective. So we want to clean this guy real well. The wiper's a bit concave, so you want to definitely get in there best you can. And take out everything. Alright, and you want to clean the threads. Make sure there's no debris on them so they create a tight seal when tightening down the wiper to the post. Alright. We are looking good. Let's see, one more clean towel. Put it inside. Yep. We are good. So now for our spacers. Let's clean these guys real good. Now with the spacers, you'll notice these are plastic and they do wear. At least this one does. So, if you notice this one, there's actually grooves that have been dug into it. That's from the pins, essentially, because this sits on top of the pins. So, if it gets bad, it can't crack. You could replace it. They do sell this as a replacement part. If it gets bad, literally just replace it. This one's not too bad. It's good till the end of the season, I'm sure. Let's take care of this split ring. This guy good. All right. He's clean. Let's clean pin 1. Let's clean pin 2. And finally pin 3. Okay. Let's clean the activation pin. And we are good to go. This guy's clean. This guy really doesn't need a clean, does he? No, he's clean. So all I have left to clean is tube itself. I am going to go clean this with brake fluid on the inside, just to make sure that it is spotless. Again, super important we get this spotless. We don't want any kind of dirt or debris or sand bits inside this thing. All right, I will be back. All right, we are back. Our tube is spotless inside. I cleaned it with brake cleaner. Make sure you clean the threads on the top, take out any debris that's inside those threads and at the bottom, because this guy screws into the bottom, right? It makes sure that the threads here are totally spotless. So we never want to get any kind of debris in between threads. So now it's a question of assembly. We're going to need shrimp butter or any kind of grease of this type, Slicoleum, anything that you think will work, right? So after we made sure our pin guides are clean, just put a little bit of grease on top of them, right? Just like that, so the pins could stick inside them. Before I do that, what am I thinking? Totally forgot about the top part. So first we're going to take our guide, our wiper, right? And just like wipers on forks, it's concave on the inside, and we are going to fill them up right in the inside over there. Put a good amount, don't be afraid. On your first couple of rides, a lot of it will come out. Just wipe it off, and then you will be good. You do not want to go short on grease here, right? So take this guy, put some on the bottom too, why not? This never hurts. So, and we slide him in. Right, done. Should have went the other way first. So then we grab our spacer. Now since mine has grooves already dug in, let's grease them up good. I'm going to inverse them, right? So now the fresh part's going to be on the bottom towards the pins. If it's new, you don't have to worry about it. There is no top, there is no bottom. So then, take this guy and put him in. Okay? So then, I'm going to take my pins. Pin 1. Pin 2. And pin 3. Now again, there's extra room over here. These Oneups come with 10mm pins. You can put up to 2 of them. Again, this reduces the drop basically. So this is a 150 post. If I was to put a 10mm pin, I would get 140 drop. Again, that works out real well if you're in between sizes. So let's say you could go up to 160 drop. You could get a 170mm post instead of a 150. You get a 170mm post, put a 10mm pin, and that'll get you down to a 160 drop essentially. So this way you maximize your drop, right? So now, this guy over here, split ring. Okay, try and align the actual ring with the pin, right? So now let's put some grease on the outside. Liberal with it. Don't be afraid, grease your friend. Again, first few rides it's going to make a bit of a mess, but it's okay. Nothing a towel can't take care of. Okay, so now we are all greased up. Time to put in our post. So, our housing. So this is the rear of the post. We want this is the rear of the housing, right? We want to align, there's grooves on the inside as I mentioned, and basically you want to align these grooves to, actually it should be like that, my bad. So you want to align these grooves to the groove, or this one groove. You want to align one of these guides in the middle of the back basically. And then if you notice on the back of the post, right at the back of the post, there's a guide on the inside, and you want to align this guide with that guide in order to let them go in freely, and basically the whole thing will go in. Sometimes you're going to have to give it a little twist, right? And boom, we are in. So now that we're in, we want to put our foam bumper. Stuff this guy in there. Okay, so now we have our pin. On the pin, there's 2 sides to it. One's flat, one's round. The flat part goes in, the round part sticks out basically, right? So we put the flat part in just like that, right? And the reason this round part is out is because this guy mounts onto that guy, and the actuator hits the round part. So if it was flat, it would actually, well, it wouldn't be as smooth, I would think. That's why they made it round, right? So now we got this guy in here. Okay, so we have the 2 screws that help lock this guy, or bolts that help lock this guy down and keep him in place. So there is no right position as far as how this gets situated, at least that I know of. So we take bolt 1, we take our 2mm Allen, make sure we put them in here. You don't have to go too crazy locking this guy out. You definitely don't want to strip him. All right, just tighten them down hand tight. You got 2 of them for redundancy. There we go. Okay, so now let's not get grease all over my suit. take this guy, drop him down, and thread this guy in. Right, take our 14. Let's not go too crazy on it. Tighten it hand tight. Right, I'd say about, I don't know, 5 Newton meters, give or take. And all we're left with is our top cap. Take out all the grease from in between those threads. So it doesn't make a huge mess for you. And take a towel, tighten them down as tight as you can by hand. All right, wipe off the remaining grease. Now we test them. Hit the actuator, put down, let go of the actuator, hit the actuator again. There we go. We have a brand new serviced Oneup seat post. Gotta love it. So super easy job. Highly recommend doing it often. At a minimum, what I would do every 50 to 100 hours, at least at a minimum, is take out the wiper or loosen the wiper, lift it upwards, and clean all the grease that you could possibly see, and then actuate it a few times while the wiper is all the way up, basically off of it. Let more grease come out. Clean as much grease as you can, and then apply a fresh coat of grease just to keep the seals fresh and keep everything fresh in there. So when installing, you're going to want to put, if you have a carbon frame, you're going to want to put carbon paste, right, for the carbon frame, just a little bit. Don't go too crazy with it. Obviously put it underneath where you marked your insertion point, and reinstall it. Basically is the exact opposite as deinstalling it, so as you saw in the beginning of the video. So hopefully this helps some beginners out there. Like, subscribe, dislike, leave any comments below if there's anything that you think should have been added or something that would help other people, and we will see you next time in the next video. Thanks again for your time. Take care. Have a great day.